Most new speakers walk on stage thinking their job is to perform. Perform well, and your presentation may impress a crowd. But only a meaningful message wins a customer. See, on today's show, we dig into what it takes to turn a room into an opportunity, not just for applause, but for earning respect and revenue. And we've got a seasoned coach who helps speakers move beyond slides and tactics and tap into the soul of their signature talk. You ready? Let's go.
The Presentation Whisperer. Real-world tips, expert insights, and proven strategies to make every presentation unforgettable. Now, here's your host, professional speaker, and best-selling author, Rob Jellis.
Today's guest, Tina Brigley, is a storytelling brand strategist, award-winning coach, and TEDx speaker. She specializes in turning the messy middle of an entrepreneur journey into the messaging gold. She's worked with over 3,000 coaches and is recognized for her signature talk coach framework, and that's what we're going to be talking about here. I'm going to let her take it from here because she'll do a better job introducing herself than I will. So welcome to the show, Tina. The floor is yours. Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. Let's go. Thanks for inviting me, Rob. And it's been entrepreneurship is a challenging journey for a lot of people, but I think there are tools to make it a lot easier once we tune out the noise and tune into our own soul, our own purpose. And I feel that that's what's missing in a lot of businesses these days. Everybody's trying to do it like everybody else. Yeah. And in that process, they forget what's their purpose, what's their why are they doing what they're doing. So that's my intention, is to help people say, those people that are out there helping you, like me, I'm one of them, we might have some knowledge and experience that can help you, but you have a lot more within you. And when you tune into it, you can really create something magical.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's natural for speakers like me to concentrate on, content on one side, slides on another. I'm actually working on a presentation about 10 days from now, and I have them set up on two sides of my screen, slides on this side, content on the other. But how do you help people find, that signature talk, the gold? Because many of them are authors and many of them are kind of carving through 70,000 words, to find the gold part. I know that's a big question, but kind of give me the first building block. How do you figure out what's the gold? What's the signature?
Yeah, so I say to people, don't be afraid of your messy middle. Like a hero's journey, there are high moments in our life, there are low, there is a mess, and usually there's a turnaround and an outcome. And people are afraid of sharing their messy middle, except most of the time what I realize is your niche is somebody who's exactly where you were at when you were in your messy middle. And they don't have a guide. They don't know how to get out of the messy middle, and they're navigating that. And you're the perfect person to help them navigate that because you've already overcome that. So a lot of times when I talk to coaches, I'll ask them, who's your niche? And they'll say, I help corporates, I help executives. And I say, why? Why do you help those people? They're like, because they have the money. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. Let's back up a little bit, because just because people have money to invest in coaching doesn't mean that you're the right coach for them. Why are you doing what you're doing? And then I help them dig a little bit more. And then I hear the truth. I was in corporate for years and I realized I was wishing my life away. I was helping build somebody else's dream, and I wanted to build my own dream, but I didn't think I could do it. And, then we start talking and I say, that's who you're helping. Those people that maybe want to leave corporate, that don't think that they have anything else. Maybe you're a career coach. I never saw that. And so it's really important for me to make sure that people are aligned with who they are and authentically what they have to give to the world. So, and from my own experience, that was something that was missing. I missed my gold for 7 years. And it came crashing in around me when I was building this business that was really successful, but I was losing myself in the process. And I couldn't understand why I was at the peak of success running a multi-7-figure coaching company and feeling like I was selling my soul to the devil, so to speak. You
Right,
know,
right,
I
right.
was building big business, but I was not doing what I love, and I was not sharing my gifts and my talents with the people that I served. And it took me stepping away from that business and walking away from the money to really step into my purpose. But that was the greatest lesson and blessing because it brought me to where I am right now. And I see when you are creating something that's not aligned, it will crash around you.
Yeah.
It's part of the spiritual journey. There's, and depending on what people believe, I believe that I'm always being guided towards on the right path. But I had to learn some lessons in order to really step on that path and be okay with being on that path.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's you've said a lot. I'm reflecting back a little bit, career wise. Coming out of University of Maryland, 21 years old, and within 2 weeks selling whole life disability and health insurance for the New York Life Insurance Company, and I didn't really feel that was my purpose. I was good at it and made a lot of money doing it, but I lasted 2 years and some change because I think that purpose kind of caught up with me. You can only hold it at bay for so long. But I'll tell you the part that is complicated for me. Let's leave Jalis's kooky career and go to the speaker's gold. And so I just want you to clarify. There's the speaker's gold and there's the audience's gold. And for me, and maybe I'm wrong. That's why I love doing this show, because half the time people are going, yeah, you're wrong, Robin. Here's the answer. But I've always focused audience, 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 audience. What's going to please this audience? I'm looking for their gold. I'm looking to connect. I don't really care about me as much. I'm focused on them. Maybe I should care more, but how do you separate the two?
yeah, that's a really great question because where I'm at right now, I always ask people, well, what's the intention? Know your audience, first of all, who's in the room and what's your intention for being in the room? Is it just to motivate and inspire them? Well, that's really great, but why? Is there a common denominator? Are they all salespeople and they want to learn how to become more effective salespeople? What's bringing you in front of them? Because a lot of times, I don't know if you've had this experience where you prepare a talk and you start talking and then you look at the room and they're looking at you like a deer in headlights. Like, what is this guy talking about right now? They don't have a problem that you solve. They don't know
Right.
why you're there. And so I really do feel that when you are speaking to people, to a group, I don't just hop on any stage and speak just for the sake of speaking. I have an intention, which is to bring more business to me. So I have to make sure that it's aligned with who I am and my ultimate outcome. So there's lots of opportunities to speak, but I don't say yes to all of them. I want to make sure that I'm speaking to the people that will get more value from me. What I mean by that is a talk is great. And this is where the distinction of performance and purpose comes in. You can perform a great talk. People can applaud you, think that was the greatest talk ever. But if your intention is to bring more business to your personal coaching, to book more talks that are a part of your business, then it is just applause and it is just a really great talk and it doesn't really move the needle in people's lives or businesses. But if you go in with a purpose, like my purpose is to take this company to the next level with their sales team, then the talk will be guiding them to want to take that next action with you. So I always say to speakers, what's the intention? And because I have done that before where somebody invited me in and said, I want you to motivate my sales team and give them a really great presentation. And I thought, great. Well, it's going to cost $1,000 for the hour because this doesn't do anything for my business after the fact. I'm not eliciting business. Your intention is really clear, motivate and inspire them. So as speakers, I think sometimes we want to just get in front of more people and we want to take it all on. But at the end of the day, what else do you want? Do you want just the hour with them or do you want more? So, and some people just want the hour. They just want to speak and get on stages. I'm just more intentional.
Yeah, well,
You know?
the ones that just want the hour aren't going to be in the business all that long. So,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
am completely lined up with you on the fact that I almost secretly consider it insulting when somebody calls me a motivational speaker. And it's not that I can't motivate. Of course I do, and inspire and entertain. I do all those things. But I'm in business for 34 years as a professional speaker because I teach, I inform, I help groups implement. I give them what's in it for them to want to even learn what I'm about to show them. I sell them that message before I deliver the message.
Right.
Just like a product. I'm not bringing a car out and then selling it to you. I'm going to sell you on the idea of a car and then I'm going to show you the car. So I'm with you. I think people miss that. It's frustrating because I think one of the issues that people have is that when they go to the inform side, they think that they have to just drop everything else and become a school teacher. It's kind of we mesh them together, so to speak. From your angle, what are some things that people can do? And I'll tell you what, I'll swap. I'll give you one too. I do this from time to time because I like to show my guests I know a couple things on this, not as much as you, but I'll show you what I'm doing right or wrong, and I want to hear what you're doing. So you give me one, I'll give you one of how we really step it up a little bit on just not making this a one and done
Right.
presentation.
Right. Right.
And there's many little moves. To me, it's not one massive thing. But one little move that I do is frequently in my opening, I think I state as an objective what it is I want from that audience. In other words, here's what we're going to learn. Here's how we're going to learn it. Here's what's in it for you to learn it. But at the end of the presentation, this is what I'm looking for from you all. And I don't even stop. I run right through the stop sign. We're not discussing it. I'm just laying that marker out so that I can work towards it and then call it back in the end and say, now in the beginning. So reminding them that there was a purpose to this and I'm looking for something. It
Right.
might be, to work with the company to conduct more workshops. That's a little bit materialistic. It might just be to, have them leave with this much information they can apply. But there's a goal. They know it before we start. And then we check back and make sure that we achieve that goal. That's one move that I make. Give me a move that you make.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's really great because you're setting the intention that I'm going to come back to this and there's no surprises at the end. Because the
Right.
worst thing is when people aren't expecting to be sold to and then we sell to them. They're
Right.
like, whoa, wait a minute here. So one of the things that I do, when I know who's in the room, I share a powerful story that deeply connects with them because I know as soon as you tell a story that leads into what you're about to teach them. So I think of my three biggest lessons. I'll share the story and then I'll say, and in that experience, I learned these three valuable things. And then I transition into like the roadmap in the next hour, in the next 30 minutes, in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to walk you through this, and this based on my story. So now what happens is I've hooked them in with the story where they're not seeing me anymore. They're seeing themselves in that story. And then I'm telling them, and then I'm going to share with you how I overcame that in these three steps. And the teaching is giving knowledge, but even when I go into the teaching, I share a story about why that's important. So whenever you share a story, I always say facts tell, stories sell. Facts give knowledge, but when people hear knowledge, the how to's and the da 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 da, they tune out. The brain doesn't process information. The brain gets bored. We're kind of a lazy society sometimes. We get instant gratification. We're looking for the instant dopamine. So I always say to people, give them the story so that the lesson makes sense to them. And storytelling, and you do this all the time too, but the road mapping is one of the things that I help people. What I share with people is I let them know exactly where we're going. I say point blank, we're going to go here, 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 so that they can wrap their mind around my process and they can actually see what's coming next. And I feel that that gives the brain a sense of security too, because the brain is looking for completeness, wholeness. And so the sections, they feel this, okay, we're on this journey together. And that's what we want to give them, that experience, because when you do that, it doesn't matter what you're selling. They're either going to buy you or not. And stories get people to buy you because they see themselves in you. They connect.
Right.
And that for me is the most important thing.
Okay. And it's funny, since I started this show, and I think we're new, but we've got about 30 episodes up now. I think the hottest topic that I'm seeing from most of my guests is storytelling. What's the biggest mistake you think people make when they try and tell a story? Because I think we're all told to do it, and yet some are better than others. You go first, and then I'll tell you what I think one of the biggest mistakes is. Okay, you go first.
Well, storytelling is not drama telling. And so sometimes people share the wrong story to the audience. If your story isn't something that is relevant to your audience, for example, if I go and talk about, if I'm in a room full of professionals and I talk about my divorce and they're there for sales strategies, my divorce story doesn't even make sense. But some people will think, well, that's my story. I've overcome this and that's why I'm doing this. I'm like, wrong.
Right.
Not all stories belong in the talk. So the stories, that's why knowing your audience is really important, because the stories have to be somewhat of a reflection of a problem that they might have right now.
Right.
So because you're teaching them something, right? So your story has to be relevant to what you're teaching, because when the story is aligned with what you're offering and what is relevant to them, they tune in. If it's not relevant to them, or they don't understand why you're even sharing this story, then it creates confusion. And confusion is, sometimes I say confusion is your friend, but in this situation, it's not. A confused mind doesn't take action. So we don't want to confuse our audience. So that's a simple phrase. Storytelling is not drama telling. Leave your drama for your friends. So that's tell the right stories.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that, because you brought up one that was just too good to leave alone. I completely agree. I think that I think one of the mistakes we make is that we get so comfortable with a story that we forget that we've told it 100 times, but they're hearing it for the first time. And so we get almost sloppy because, well, obviously in our mind, it's like, obviously, where I'm going and why I'm telling it, etc. And they don't. So a little trick that I use for me, particularly on the longer stories, because I can go a little long, is I love the phrase at the end of the story, and I tell you this story because to remind them why I got into this story. Because quite frankly, a lot of speakers, again, I'm using me as an example, I call it story jumping. One story reminds us of another story. And that story reminds us of another story. We can be 3 stories in. We're having the time of our life, by the way. Problem is, the audience is like, where's he going? What happened? What happened to the cat story? Okay, so by reminding myself, I tell you that story because even if I've gotten a little sloppy, I can go back and kind of hone in on, this is really why I'm telling it, what I want you to get out of it, and kind of clean up a mistake. So that's just a trick that I use from a guy that can get a little, I get a little distracted in my own stories sometimes. I know that's rotten, but that's how I fix it. So that's a mistake that I fix.
Oh, you and me both. I mean, I've made that mistake in the past too, because I love storytelling, and I was the one who would be like, oh, and this reminds me of this. But there are teachable moments that are really, especially when it's live and interactive, that can work in that situation. But yeah. And I think of it like a simple formula, kind of like the hero's journey. Every story should have a high moment, a low moment, a messy moment, a turnaround, and an outcome. And when you can think of that framework, and then you go into your teaching, then people are engaged and they want to know, oh, how did this happen? What was this? And then you can share the teaching. So you hook them in and then they want to learn more. And that's how you get them to listen to your teachings, because they're already hooked in with the whole story of it. And they see themselves in that story and tell themselves, that's what I need right now. Oh, that's
Right.
what's not working right now. Oh, and you have a solution to that. So you're selling your solution without selling your solution. So by the end of the talk and your stories that are really intentional stories, then people will come to you at the end and say, okay, I need to learn more. How else
Right.
do you help people? Because now that's just a natural transition, because they're seeing, I'm stuck in the mess right now and I don't know how to get out. And that's what we want to do. And that's what strategic storytelling does.
Right. And see, for a lot of us, we started by trying to talk about how to kind of extend that relationship to be, rather than a one and done keynote speaker, to actually develop and work with a customer. I've worked with Toyota for over 20 years. But I guess my question to you is this: if we're doing a keynote, and speaking, let's just say, I'm going to put that kind of imaginary wall up, at least 100 people, could be 1,000, but 100, 200, 500 people, versus a smaller group, which is what I'm after a lot of times. The keynote opens the doors for smaller, longer workshops where we can get out of the entertainment business that we've been in for this hour and really get in and grind it out and change the culture of a company. That's what we trainers and speakers are trying to do, not just give you an idea or two. So, in terms of storytelling, and maybe there isn't a difference, but do you notice differences between telling a story to a keynote audience versus telling a story to a workshop audience? More time, smaller group. Any differences you want to highlight?
I don't think there's really any differences, because at the end of the day, you're always selling you. So the topic is irrelevant, really, because a lot of times when you speak, when people connect with you, it doesn't even matter what you're talking about. They're tuning in. And you want to leave people with a visceral experience. You want them to feel you when you're speaking. And I'll never forget the time. I'll share really quickly. Um, I I actually asked to be a part of this women's event, and I wanted to be a speaker, and I got declined as a speaker. So I said, well, let me help you fill the room. What's your intention? How many women do you want? What can I do to support you? And so I just started filling this room. And the woman came to me after and she said, why would you do that? And I said, well, because I really believe in your event and I want it to be successful. And she said, how would you feel about being the MC at my event? And I said, well, I've never done that before, but anything that I can do to be a part of this, I want to be a part of it. So I stepped on that stage, and the first thing I said was, this is my worst nightmare come true. And everybody just kind of looked at me. And I said, in seventh grade, I was bullied so bad, I made this decision that girls don't like me. And here I am in front of a room of 100 women who are staring at me, hanging on to my every word. And I decided when I walked on this stage, it's not about me, it's about the speakers, and it's about you. And I want this to be the most magical event. And so that right away, people listened to me through a different filter. Somebody who is human, somebody who was raw, who was sharing vulnerably. And there is, I don't think, one woman in that room that didn't resonate with that at some level, being afraid or having things from the past. Like it wasn't me anymore. It was them looking at me, feeling that that's me too. And so I ended up generating $45,000 in revenue from that one event. And I wasn't a speaker at the event. And I didn't tell people I was a coach. But
Right.
after they came to me and said, what do you do? And I said, I help entrepreneurs. And at the time, I was just helping them grow their business. But I never said that at all. I never told people what I was doing, but who I was being was somebody that they wanted to embody. They wanted to be like, and they wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, something that we forget when we're on that stage, is that it doesn't matter what we're selling. When people buy into us, they want to ask us for more details. That is purpose, not performance. And when we bring out all of our slides and give all the details and all the facts and all the how-tos, people don't care. They're only doing business with people that they connect with. So I see it as my only job is to connect with this audience, give them something of value, but leave them wanting more.
Yeah. It's just so well said. I don't. I know you're working on a book. Sometimes when we're working on books, we like to keep most of it quiet, including our titles and things like that. But I want to tell you, purpose, not performance, is really ringing out in my ears on this side of the microphone in terms of where that book of yours might be heading. Just meeting you this morning. That really resonates, and I think speakers have to hear that, and I think that will be the title of our podcast as well. But wow, did that just hit home on this side, and I wish more speakers would understand that.
Wow, thank you so much. It was a series of a whole bunch of breakdowns in the last 8 years, not listening to my voice, not listening to, I say the whispers, the internal guidance that whispers along the way, making sure that you're on the right path. When I wasn't paying attention to those whispers, they started turning into bricks. I was experiencing all of these things that were guiding me, but I was like, no, 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 I need to listen to this guru. No, 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 I need to learn from this speaker. Oh, no, I need to. And in that time, I can see now it's perfect because it makes for a really great book. you know? And I don't have a title for my book yet, but it is basically my experience growing up and putting on the personas and the masks and who the world expects you to be, but more importantly, who I expected me to be to deal with things that happen in my life. And then it's about stripping down the personas to get to nothing, be nothing,
Right.
just a vessel to create whatever you want. And then the last arc, I felt like I was procrastinating, but my life wasn't complete. Like I wasn't finished the book in my life. And it was really about just coming from a place of service, which is purpose and not performance. So, you know what? I don't know, Rob.
You're talking to the presentation whisperer. I'm telling
I
you.
know, right?
As I always say, you don't find a book; it finds you.
Right.
And this one has found you. So maybe that's the tagline. Maybe that's the front line, and we put something how to, so we explain it on one side or the other. But that's really powerful, and I think everything that this conversation keeps coming back to that point. So, you can only gnaw at your leg for so long before you got to look down and say, all right, I hear you. So keep an eye on that one.
I just wrote it down.
Good.
I'm going to reflect on that. I
Good.
feel like.
Good. Well, we're coming down the home stretch, but you sort of mentioned rejection, and rejection is a major part of the speaking world. I love to say that, I get rejected more than anyone else I know, but I win some too. How do you coach someone that's not getting the bookings that they're hoping for and getting rejected? Because that is part of this world, particularly if you don't have, 25 years at this.
Mm-hmm. The simplest answer I can say for people that are in that boat is every day you're buying and you're selling. You're buying and selling yourself. And so if you're being rejected, it might be an opportunity to look within to see how am I showing up for people? It's feedback. Rejection is feedback.
Right.
And so people have a hard time with feedback. But I say those rejections are just opportunities to look within and refine your purpose. Are you really aligned with what you're doing? Because coming from the spiritual world, I truly believe whatever you believe in, universe, God, source, creator, will put us on the path where we're supposed to be. And
Right.
the rejection sometimes is actually an opportunity to shift your focus to something else. So I don't take rejection personally. I have certainty that it was supposed to be a no, but also with that being said, I always look within to say what was missing in my enrollment. Why am I showing up my best? Am I putting integrity into my life? Am I doing the things that I need to do to show up as the best version of myself? Because I also do believe that it's an energetic exchange and your energy speaks before your words do. And so I'm always mindful of my energy, what I'm hanging on to, what I'm bringing into the conversation. And I spend a lot of time doing a lot of personal development and growth for that reason. Not to minimize rejection, but to not make it be the be all and end all and like, oh my gosh, somebody said no to me, my life is horrible, I suck. No, I don't ever go there. I just use it as feedback and say, okay, there's another opportunity waiting for me that might be better, but also let me be responsible. Is there something missing that would have people really buy into what I'm saying? So it's kind of like threefold, right? Look within, trust the creator, has a bigger plan, and make sure you're aligned, because we could unconsciously be pushing it away and setting up the rejection because we really don't want it, but we're afraid to say that we're
Ooh,
afraid to say that,
yeah,
right? I don't
yeah.
really want this opportunity. I'm really scared. I'm nervous. What if? And then we get the no and we say, oh, see, I knew it. Well, really? Or did you set it up for the no? Pay attention to what you're putting out there.
Yeah. Boy, did you nail that one? Yeah, it's just part of the business. I know it's not easy for people. Sometimes we need to kind of lay down and take a nice deep breath. But you get rejected here or there. That's fine. You start getting a slew of them. That's the word I'm looking for. And it's time to start looking within. It's time to, even for when you get this book and you start looking for a publisher, there are many different sources. I hope you start from the top down and go conventional and then hybrid maybe, and then indie and then self. But there's many, but we start at the top. And the key is, not if, but when we get rejected, what am I learning from this? In other words, what's one or two things I could do differently here? Let's not play the victim game.
Yeah.
And that's where the mind wants to go. Not my fault, it's theirs. No,
Yeah.
it's the universe is trying to tell you something about this book of yours or this presentation of yours. I don't say rip it to shreds, but pick one or two things that you do differently that you're trying that the clients offer you. And sometimes, if you ask, a client will tell you when you say it nicely. I'm trying to. This is my business. All I want to do is keep improving and keep getting better. What's one or two things I could have done differently? And they'll tell you. Well,
Yes.
one, it's almost always first. Well, it had nothing to do with you. Our budget. Okay. Yeah, you're learning about budgets. That's fine. How did you not know about that budget? Is that one of the questions you ask early on? So there's so much that can be learned once we get out of our own way and stop saying that company's not nice, that individual isn't nice. It's that I did everything right. I'm sure you did. Let's do it even better.
Oh, yeah. So this is a really great tool that people can use if they're in that situation. I always think of fourth level responsibility. And what I mean by that is the first one is victim. Oh, woe is me. This is happening to me. But the fourth level is actually, I am the source and creator of my reality. I sourced it, I caused it. And people are like, it's not the same as cause and effect, though. It's more of there's something I'm supposed to learn. What's the lesson here? Exactly what you said. What is the lesson? Who am I supposed to be in this rejection? Maybe it's an opportunity to ask for feedback. Maybe it's an opportunity to maybe branch out to a different niche market. But when we look at, okay, how did I source this? What am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to get? Who am I supposed to be? Then rejection never feels heavy or it's about them. It's always over here. And when you can operate with that level of integrity and responsibility, nothing can rattle you.
Right.
Nothing can shake you because you know that you're in the driver's seat. And it really is a powerful tool. And even though sometimes it feels uncomfortable, I got into a car accident, somebody hit me. It's hard to practice fourth level responsibility. It wasn't my fault. But when I asked myself, how did I source this? What? And I was like, oh, I was on the way to a seminar that I didn't want to go to. I I put the resistance out there so I wouldn't have to go. Oh, I can just be real with that. This is how I source this. And it's a lesson in brutal honesty with ourselves too.
Right.
So it's really it's a way of operating life where you're not at the effect of life. You're in the driver's seat of everything that happens in life.
Yeah. Perfect cap on that. It's not personal. That's what I'm walking away from listening to you. And if it is, why in the world would you want to work with that company or individual? So I think either way, we've kind of got ourselves covered. This has been terrific. How do people get a hold of you, Tina?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Tina Brigley on LinkedIn, and you can Google me. It's easy to find me. I'm on Facebook. I have a community, and yeah.
Yeah.
You want my cell phone number?
Nah, well,
I'm joking.
let's not. Yeah.
I'm joking.
Whoa. No, but you know what? But I know I reached out and connected with you on LinkedIn, so I can tell you that Tina's on there and active. And spell the last name because not everybody gets Brigley right.
Yeah, Brigley.
Yeah, there you go. Well, terrific job. I love where this conversation went. And I do think that purpose, not performance, is going to follow you around today. So listen to its voice, and maybe it takes you to another thing that's close to that, and that's fine. It doesn't always have to be, but I think this is the path to this title. And one thing you'll find about writing a book, this is your first book?
This is my first book.
Yeah. Titles are really important. Now, if you go conventionally, they'll probably change your title. Now that makes it so important. But every time they've changed my title, and they have changed every title I've ever come up with, it's not a big deal because then I just insert that phrase all over the place. In other words,
Right.
I make it the heart of the book anyway. That's fine. You listen, when you go conventional, you listen to these people because you may not like what they're saying, but they've got one thing in mind and one thing only. How are we going to sell books? How are we going to not take a loss on this book? So they're worth listening to. But that is a message that's resonating with me. Anyway, I won't keep driving it home. It has been terrific. I want to thank you for being on the show. And I love the conversation. I learned a lot of little pieces from you, not just about storytelling, but you go a little deeper than that. Any case, pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.